Thank you, everyone. Apologize for just taking a few more minutes. Thank you and welcome. Today is July 19th, and this is our regular city council meeting of the City of Soledad Successor Agency Housing Authority and Successor Housing Agency. We call this meeting to order at 6:05. Thank you. And at this time, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you are joining us at this meeting, you can join us to be able to make comments. You can join us via Zoom. The meeting ID is located on the agenda, but I will call it out. It's 812-0728-4577. You can also join us via telephone at 1-669-900-6833. And if you're using for both the Zoom meeting and if you're using the Zoom meeting, I apologize. The meeting ID again is 812-0728-4577. And I believe this meeting is also being translated in Spanish. So thank you. And with that, I will ask our city clerk for roll call, please.
Mayor Ana Vasquez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ben Jimenez Jr. Councilmember Alejandro Chavez,
Here.
Councilmember Maria Corlejo,
Here.
Councilmember Fernando Cabrera. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a quorum, and we will move forward to our next item on our agenda, which is our Pledge of Allegiance. And if we can all please rise so we can do our Pledge of Allegiance. And if I can ask Michael Artalejo, please, if you can lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, and at this time, we will move on to any additions and modifications to the agenda. And do we have any additions or modifications?
None that I know.
Okay, so we're gonna go into public comments for a minute, but I do want to just take some time to ask for a moment of silence at this time for the passing of our former mayor and also a businessman, person that did a lot for our community, Mr. Jack Franchione, who passed away. He served as mayor from 1972 to 1974, and then again from 1976 to 1978. He was a fierce community leader. For many of those that know me, you also know that he was my first boss. I worked for him when I worked at the Soledad Pharmacy, and he was the person that hired me at first, and then he sold the pharmacy, and thereafter I was able to go to college and come back home, and I always had a job at the pharmacy, so I will forever eternally be grateful for that. He was also a World War II veteran. And he did a lot to really improve the quality of life for our community. And so our prayers and our condolences go out to his family. And if we can just join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. So we will move on at this point to public comments. So do we have any public comments from those that are joining us here in our chambers first, and then I will take it out to those that are joining us via Zoom? Do we have any public comments?
Thank you so much. My name is Michael Artalejo. I'm with the Monterey County Workforce Development Board. And I'm just here to say thank you to the members here and our city of Soledad. Last Thursday, the 13th, we had a youth job fair at the community center, which with the help of individuals throughout the staffing here, made it a great success. We had more than 90 plus young individuals coming through looking for jobs, meeting employers, setting up interviews, and walking away with a great overall experience. So there's a lot of thank yous here. Thank you to our community and Facebook. Facebook, the French Street group, was huge in spreading the word and getting people to our job fair. I was there and I asked a lot of individuals, and they said their moms, their aunts, their uncles, their brothers and sisters referred them from that Facebook group. So that's huge for us. But what I want to say is that what made it was successful was not only does Workforce Development Board want to engage with our young individuals here in Soledad, but we want to get them the experience and the training and the opportunities and open those doors. And once those doors are open, it gives those young individuals a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of leadership and skills that are needed to become the next leaders here in our community, and also to stay engaged and become outstanding citizens that we want and look for here in Soledad. So I just wanted to say again, thank you. Workforce Development Board is committed to future job fairs for the youth and young adults throughout our community. Being part of the Workforce Development Board, it's awesome, but also I'm a citizen here in Soledad, so you have my full-time commitment for anything future-wise that we can do for our youth. And we look forward to hopefully doing this more frequently and beginning of the summer, so that way our young individuals get that experience, get the training, get that engagement, get that sense of purpose, and get those skills to move us toward the future of Soledad. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your quick response to the request to bring a youth fair here too. I really appreciate that. Do we have any other, and just council, I know that I had talked to Michael about having him come at another time when we can have a presentation, so he can provide more information in regards to the outreach process, to the employers that were part of that. And also there was about 90 youth that went through that, and how many of those already have had interviews. And I think that's pretty significant, and it'll lead with our youth violence prevention initiative. So I'm really excited that we can partner to continue to do this again. So he'll come back, but thank you for being here today.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay, so do we have any additional comments from those that are joining us here? Okay, then let me take it out to those that are joining us via Zoom. Do we have any public comments from those that are joining us via Zoom? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So at this time, then I will close the public comment period, and then we will move on to our next item on our agenda. And at this time, we have several council presentations, and we also have some updates. I'll start with our first item on the agenda, certificates of appreciation that will be presented to our community volunteers. And we have several of those, but what I want to do today, just because we do have several items to present today, I want to make sure that I read one of the certificates, and then that we have the opportunity to read out all the names of the individuals, and then that we can pause for a bit, take a photo, and then move on to the next certificates. So the certificates that we have today before us is from a group of leaders that have been really instrumental in supporting our communities in the food distributions and other opportunities to help our community. And so they've been here since the pandemic, when we saw that many people didn't have access to some of the food supplies, and there was some financial distress. They worked with an organization that was out of San Jose to come here and distribute food, along with working with our food banks, local food banks as well. But they continue that work even after the pandemic. And as many of you know, there's still a lot of families that are struggling economically. So they continue to do that every month. Since the pandemic began. So I just want to make sure that we take a note of some of those extraordinary volunteers that we have, and we have many of them in the city of Soledad, which is really amazing. So if anyone has any other volunteer initiatives that have been happening, please reach out to the council, because these are really important recognitions for our community. So I'll read the what's on the certificate on behalf of the city of Soledad. On behalf of the Soledad City Council, congratulations on being an outstanding role model and neighbor. Thank you for dedicating extensive hours of volunteer service at multiple community food drives and going above and beyond the call of duty to provide help to those who need it the most in our community. Your generosity, hard work, and dedication to public service is commendable. The City of Soledad is honored to recognize you as a Soledad superstar, and then volunteers do not necessarily have the time, they just have the heart. And this is the quote that I like by Elizabeth Andrew. So this will be the presentation, this will be the certificate that will be presented to all the volunteers. And there is 33 of them that we're gonna recognize. They're not all here, but we will be providing them with the certificates. And I just wanna make sure that I call their name so we can recognize them properly. So as I mentioned, from San Jose, which Flor Martinez is part of the Celebration Nation who started coming here to San Jose and said, how can I help, especially the farm workers in our community during the pandemic that were really disproportionately impacted. And she came, 3 years ago, and she's been here since. So Flor, thank you so much for everything that you've done for our community. Jose Martinez, Adela Alvarez, Fermian Alvarez, Victor Hugo Merino, Marlene Cepeda, Sebastián Pisano, Camila Pisano, Elvira Molina, María de Jesús Sánchez, Leticia Ibarra, Isabel González, María Avino, Edith Ochoa, Ulises Aguilar, Celia Mesa, Lupita Mesa, Amparo Fuentes, María Flores, Gabriela Alfaro, Garo Alfaro, Luis Alfaro, Eneida Flores, Ingrid Ubedo, Alondra Rodríguez, Angélica Lomelí, Patricia Ramírez, Filomena Madrigal, Melina Zarate, Mónica Andrade, Diana Garza, Clarisa Garza, y Marta Zarate, y Irene Serrano. So can we just give them a round of applause? There's a lot of for us in our community, we know that volunteers are essential for the work that needs to get done. So can we pause for a minute? We can take a picture with the volunteers that are here. So si podemos hacer una pausa para tomarnos un retrato con los voluntarios que están aquí, que han sido reconocidos. Thank you, everyone. We're back. Thank you for your flexibility. So we do have, I'm gonna allow if there's comments on the recognition that was provided to our volunteers. If there's someone that wants to make a comments, we'll allow for 3 minutes. If you can just remember, it's 3 minutes. So si quieren, si uno de ustedes quiere hacer un comentario, pueden venir al frente y luego si recordatorio, nomás que son 3 minutos, por favor.
Buenas tardes. En nombre de Flor Martínez de Celebration Nation Foundation y cada uno de sus voluntarios queremos darle las gracias a la ciudad de Soledad por el apoyo que nos brindan al usar el centro comunitario para la distribución de despensa a las familias de nuestra comunidad. Y agradecer al alcalde Ana Velázquez por su ayuda cuando se le es posible ayudar. Gracias.
Gracias, Aneida. So Aneida, just to do the translation in English, she just, on behalf of Flor Martinez, who is the founder of Celebration Nation Foundation from San Jose, she wanted to thank the city council and the city for allowing them to be able to utilize for the last 3 years, the parking lot of the community center to be able to hold the distributions on a monthly basis. So much appreciation to the city for that as well. So, thank you. Gracias, Aneida. So we'll move on to our next item on our agenda, which is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Soledad proclaiming July 15th to the 23rd as Latino Conservation Week in the City of Soledad. And I believe we do have some representatives online that will share a few words in terms of the proclamation. But I wanted to make sure that I share a couple of just a couple of the language that's in this proclamation as well. Whereas Latino Conservation Week, Disfrutando y Conservando Nuestra Tierra, is an initiative of Hispanic Access Foundation. And whereas Latino Conservation Week was created to support the Latino community getting into the outdoors and participating in activities to protect our natural resources. And whereas during the Latino Conservation Week, community, nonprofit, faith-based, and government organizations and agencies hold events throughout the country to promote conservation efforts in their community and provide an opportunity for Latinos to show their support for permanently protecting our land, our water, and air. And whereas there has been a tremendous growth in activity since the Latino Conservation Week launched in 2014, with 9 events hosted in 2014 and 220 plus events hosted in 2022. And whereas Latino Conservation Week also has resulted in a broader coverage of the Latino role in conservation in both English and Spanish media, and has led to recognition from local, state, and national elected officials of the important role Latinos play as stewards of this land. Whereas the City of Soledad held its own events during the Latino Conservation Week in 2022, and whereas locally the Monterey Bay Aquarium has joined the Hispanic Access Foundation to celebrate Latino Conservation Week, and the Monterey Bay Aquarium has worked to identify and build relationships with conservation organizations in the Monterey Bay region, resulting in 9 local Latino Conservation Weeks events in 2022. And whereas in 2022, the Monterey Bay Aquarium hosted a group of 15 community organizations at the Betchel Education Center to build relationships and share strategies for effective ways to engage local Latinx communities in conservation efforts beyond Latino Conservation Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved, on behalf of the Soledad City Council, we hereby proclaim July 15th through the 23rd of 2023 as Latino Conservation Week in the City of Soledad, and we further encourage all of our residents to engage and participate in local conservation efforts. So I wanted to make sure that we provide this recognition and proclamation, and being so close for us in the City of Soledad of having the privilege to have a national park next to our, part of our backyard. I think it's really important, and the more that we can promote the conservation and stewardship of nature, I think it's really critical. And our City of Soledad, and I know our community engagement manager was also part of those group meetings that were held in Monterey, to be able to look at how do we come together and how do we start promoting more of the Latino conservation efforts within our South County region. So we were pretty excited to be able to form that partnership, and we hope for it to continue to grow, and that we continue to do more out of that. I know last year we did the butterfly garden that we've relocated a couple of times already, but it was part of those Latino conservation efforts and really looking at our stewardship of making sure that we were protecting some of our potential endangered species and how do we make sure that we have a home for them here and what can each one of us do. So with that, I want to say congratulations, and I believe we do have Tatiana who's here with us. And Tatiana, if you want to unmute, and if there's any words you'd like to share with us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I just want to say thank you so much. We are very pleased with how much recognition Latino Conservation Week is getting, and we really want to say thank you for recognizing this week. And I'm sorry we can't be there in person, but I'm very happy to be here over Zoom. So thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Tatiana. And so we'll be mailing the certificate, the proclamation to you. And thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing. Yeah, thank you so much for raising awareness. Okay, so we will then move on to our next item, which is Housing Resource Center, Monterey County Executive Director Alexa Johnson will present a PowerPoint presentation. And so Alexa is
She's on remote. She's over here.
hi, Alexa. So Alexa, if you can unmute yourself and welcome.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Soledad Council members and Mayor Velasquez, for letting me come on and share what it is HRC does and the services we provide to our community. Let me get my PowerPoint up here. Okay, so here at HRC, our mission is to provide a continuum of resources that enable households to access affordable housing opportunities. So what I like to tell people is HRC's focus is to really help our community connect to housing that is affordable, that is safe, that is realistic. You know, rent's supposed to be 30% of our income. And unfortunately, we see families paying a lot more than that. So, you know, our mission is to try to connect those families to housing that's realistic for them, where they can have, you know, a stable roof over their heads. And so, you know, the picture I have here to the left is actually from when I was a case manager at HRC. And they couldn't accurately write a success story for me, but they wanted to draw a photo. So on the left, they drew where they lived, and it was at a church. And they said they felt a lot of worry, a lot of anger, and a lot of fear. And on the right side, they drew where they wanted to live, which was a 2-story house for a backyard for their dogs and a place with a lot of sunshine. And when I look at this picture, to me, it accurately represents what HRC's purpose is, because we were able to put them in a 2-story unit with a backyard for their dog in South County with all the sunshine, right? So we are very fortunate to have the privilege in serving our community in this way. And this photo to me just really accurately represents our mission at our agency. So I wanted to go through with you today and discuss our services and how we serve the community. So as you can imagine, we have several different programs. And so it's really hard to nail down to our community, what services can you promise to provide if we enroll in your program? However, these are a list of services that no matter what program any of our community members enroll in, we can guarantee these services can be fulfilled. So one of those ways is payments of evictions or outstanding utility debts, any debt that someone may owe that has gone to collections. We want to be able to pay that off in order to help you find housing. We'll pay application fees, the prorated rent, your first month's rent and security deposit. And then we help with something that's called a CARS assessment. It's a tool that's used in our county to be able to assess individuals and families and place them on wait lists based off of their needs. So HRC can help with those assessments as well. We'll make referrals to other counties, and we will also enroll our families into any sort of voucher programs with Housing Authority. We'll be able to help with a homeless set aside voucher, or I'm sure as you all have heard about the EHV vouchers, we were able to help individuals and families apply for those vouchers as well. And so I was mentioning before the CARS assessments. If you have not heard of CARS before, HUD actually mandates that homeless services be organized through a coordinated entry system. In our county, we call it CARS. So CARS replaces that first come, first serve method of wait lists, where if someone is on the wait list on Monday and someone comes on Wednesday, the Monday applicant is further on the list than the person that came in on Wednesday. And what CARS does is it actually replaces that mentality and says those with the highest needs should be higher on the wait list. And therefore, those with the highest needs would get served first. So a lot of our housing programs actually have wait lists based off of this CARS scoring. And HRC is one of the, I think, about 12 to 15 agencies in our county that can do these assessments for anybody, whether or not they're a client of ours or not. And so when I talk to individuals about what HRC is and our purpose, I find it's easier to go through briefly what it looks like for someone who enrolls into our program and then successfully exits from our program. So when someone comes into our program, they're assigned to a case manager and to a housing specialist. So the case manager will look at the household size, when they were last on a lease, how they became homeless. They're going to be doing monthly budgets and monthly housing goals. They're going to help identify and potentially eliminate any sort of housing barriers that can, come up when it comes to looking for housing. So some examples could be evictions, pets, outstanding utility debts, but then there's also barriers that can't be removed, such as someone's disability, maybe somebody has a criminal record. Those are some barriers that we need to identify ahead of time to be able to look for housing for them despite having those barriers. And we want to be able to support our clients in doing so. So the case manager will identify those barriers, eliminate the ones they can, and make sure that the client is well supported with resources that they might need, whether housing or not. Where's the food bank? Do you have resources? If you're pregnant, do you have resources to take care of your health and take care of your baby's health? Things of that nature we really want to support our folks on while they look for housing. So after they meet with the case manager, they'll actually meet with the housing specialist afterwards. And the housing specialist will really focus on the housing component in their case management. So they're going to be looking at where the family has previously rented, if at all, what they can afford in rent, where to start their housing search. And from there, really train and teach the family how to start applying for units, how to go about having conversations with landlords. They're going to be assisting with unit inspections and rent negotiations once that time comes up and they're approaching a potential move-in date. And then really ensuring when the family signs the lease that they understand what's expected of them as tenants, but also what are their rights as tenants and what are the landlord's responsibilities as well. Really making sure that they understand what it means to be a tenant, and simple things that might be simple to us, but maybe not to someone who hasn't rented before. Things like making a repair order, something that can be pretty small up front, but if you don't take care of it, it can grow and become something ugly. Being able to make sure that those little things are spoken about and really gone into detail to make sure our families are confident in moving into housing and being successful on their own.
Alexa, I know that there's only 5 to 7 minutes. I know that you have a little more information on the slides. Thank you for providing those. You want to just
Sure.
continue for a few more minutes?
I will just
But we
Just
can't
wrap it
hear
up
you.
here. Housing specialist will. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just going in and out a little.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will wrap up here and say that the housing specialist will remove themselves from the case, and the case manager will work with the family until they're able to pay on their own. I will leave
Oh,
this
we
slide
can't-
and see the programs. And then that would be my end there.
Yeah, so we're having.
So there's more information and then the contacts there as well.
Okay, thank you, Alexa. I know you were just cutting a little bit out at the end, so thank you for that. So we'll put this information here for our residents because I think it's really critical, the resource that you provide to our residents and to our community, very crucial information. So let me open it up for the council to see if there's any questions that they may have or any comments.
Okay, great.
Yes, hi. Just wanted to thank you, Alexa, for that very informative presentation that you did. I actually have had the pleasure of working directly. I don't know if Monique is still on your staff, but I did have the pleasure of working with Monique for a few years in Salinas, and so I personally saw what you do for our community. So I wanted to thank you guys for that. Also, I know here in Soledad, we have had I guess some of your clients come and get auto repair work done, and I believe that was, at least for this specific family, included, and I was really surprised because I've never seen everyone just really offer wraparound services, that are gonna affect all aspects of housing. So, I was really impressed by that, and I just again wanted to thank you for everything that your organization does, and I would love to see maybe like a South County satellite or something like that, and that might be something that you have that I'm not aware of, but there's definitely a need for it here, so thank you.
Thank you. That's our goal,
Thank you.
2024.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Just one question, Alexa, in regards to the numbers throughout the county, do you have those that you could share with us as far as the folks that you guys are helping out, and also in particular with South County and Soledad numbers are kind of the ones I'm more interested in, but I'd be interested in seeing how much work is being done throughout the county.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's the reception on this side or over there, but I couldn't hear the first part of your question.
Sure, I was just wondering, as far as your center there, how many folks you help throughout the county, what those numbers look like, and in particular, the ones for South County and Soledad, that just looking at that would be interesting for me to see how we're faring in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be able to give South County numbers right offhand, but I know last year we helped just under 800 individuals with housing. And about 40% of those we connected to permanent housing. Right now, we are experiencing about 30 cases more on hand at one time than we did last year. We have 118 cases. So our staff is working overtime. Unfortunately, the need is increasing in our community. So I project those numbers to increase.
Thank you, Alexa.
Yeah, thank you, Alexa. And I just want to say thank you to you and your team. So I am on this board of HRC. Housing is obviously critical to all of us, important, especially for me, is really near and dear to my heart. So it's one of the boards that I sit on that's probably the easiest. Because Alexa and her team are amazing, and so they do help everyone. I know when there's issues and people that I don't know where to turn to, and their resources are challenging. My go-to is Alexa. Alexa, how can you get them help? Alexa, how can you house this person? Alexa, where can you get where can we get food for them? Alexa, what can we do? So I just want to say thank you, Alexa. And I know that we've talked about expanding to South County and looking for a location. Obviously, we all know that more services are needed here, but I also understand that there's, a lack of space. And we have to be really thoughtful as we move forward to, as a council, of really looking at those spaces that we need to be able to bring the resources that are much needed for our community. So thank you so much for coming here. It was nice to see you, and thank you so much for all the work that you and your team does in our community to help our most vulnerable population.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on then to our next item on our agenda, and at this time is item number 4. City of Soledad Police Chief Damon Watson will give a verbal update regarding the firework enforcement. So welcome, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, and you should have in your packets, most of the materials, the PowerPoint presentation, Jason from Cal Fire is not here. So I'm gonna kind of throw his numbers and stuff out there. We tried passing out documents. We put stuff on Facebook. Cal Fire, we made videos. We educated folks for probably 2 weeks before the 4th of July. You should have seen all of the documents on all of the Facebooks and every kind of media that we could. We did videos in English and Spanish with Cal Fire. If you were in town that night, you kind of know what was going on. I have a bunch of drone videos. If you would like those, they were way too big to be putting on thumb drives or DVDs or anything like that. So, but I have them if you would like them. I will kind of go over. That night we had 15 officers on. We had all of our explorers on, and we had 4 of our reserves on. And then Cal Fire was stocked up as well. They had several extra folks on their trucks roaming the city. That we issued 11 citations for illegal fireworks that night. We confiscated over 300 pounds of fireworks. Because we were kind of working together that night, we went out with Cal Fire, and there was 2 vegetation fires caused by illegal fireworks, a backyard fire caused by illegal fireworks, a structure fire where the wood roof caught on fire because the illegal fireworks blew up underneath the shake on the roof and ignited the roof. Luckily, with everybody out roaming around and being where we were, everybody arrived real quick, got everybody out of the house, and Cal Fire got the fire put out. We had over 100 calls for illegal fireworks that night. And we're still waiting on the list of total for the week before and the week after, and we're still having some illegal fireworks going off here in town. So we're waiting for those actual numbers to come in from dispatch, how many calls were called in. It got to the point where if it was just a fireworks call, an illegal fireworks call with the caller didn't have ID or didn't know where they were coming from, it was just an illegal fireworks call, dispatch just logged it. They didn't even dispatches to them anymore. So of the 100 calls that we went to, there was probably twice that many that were around town. We are actually in the process of having Cal Fire come down to take all the illegal fireworks, and they're going to destroy them for us. Their program is, if we confiscate them, they'll come and take them away from us and destroy them. We used to have to try to either store them or figure out something else with them, but now Cal Fire does that for us.
Okay.
So that was our 4th of July. Like I said, I have a whole bunch of drone video if you would like that. To go along with the pictures and stuff that Jason in their drone shows where the fires and stuff are. And then just kind of actually carry over into the car show that next Saturday on the 8th. We had over 250 cars show up, 19 vendors, 19 retail vendors, 18 food vendors, and 9 community groups showed up for that. So that was kind of the rundown for the July 4th through the July 8th week for City of Soledad. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them for you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for that, and, yeah, thank you for the report, I think it's really telling, and, I mean, we obviously can see the drone video, but I think for many of us that were here in town, I think we saw it for ourselves, so, I mean, it was pretty significant, and I know we keep talking about, I mean, the last couple of years, I think the council's really tried to look at how do we modify our ordinance, you know, we looked at different fines to increase the fines at one point. You know, just to have that as a deterrent, obviously that hasn't worked, so it's looking at what are other possible alternatives. I know we're not the only city, there's other cities that are talking about what can we do, and I want to say, you know, just our condolences also to the Valdez family from the city of Gonzales who, you know, lost their loved one, Maria Guadalupe Valdez. You know, I know it's probably still under investigation, but possibly, right, because of fireworks. And so when you look at that, and you know, I know that it's for our community members an opportunity to be able to say, hey, we're celebrating and whatnot, but at the cost of losing someone's life, I think it's a point we really need to look at what other measures can be implemented. And I think for me, even more so last year and this year is combined, the city spent $40,000, $20,000 last year and $20,000 this year to be able to have a fireworks show with the hopes to deter some of those illegal fireworks. To be able to provide, you know, our residents with the opportunity to have a nice firework display and be safe, right? Be safe in our community and minimize some of those, you know, issues of the grass fires and, you know, potential fires that like what happened in Gonzales. So, I mean, for me, I think it's important for us to strategize and look at what are some of the alternatives in terms of remedies, you know, what's being done or what can be done to be able to ensure that our communities remain safe and that we still have the opportunity to celebrate as a community, but that we're really conscientious about how dangerous the illegal fireworks are. And that the culture changes, right? I mean, I think it's a culture change and it'll take a while. I think we started with a lot of what you guys did this year in terms of the awareness and what we've been trying to do the last couple of years of just modifying some of the ordinances that we have, but I think it goes beyond that and what else can be done. But thank you for being out there and for, you know, continuing even after the 4th of July, as you said, we still continue to hear fireworks as well. So,
well, and we actually are looking at what worked and what didn't work. You know, 11 citations last year, I think we got 1. So some of the things that worked this year on how we caught people, how we confiscated the fireworks, how we were able to give citations and stuff, we're going to expand on that next year and see if we can improve on that. So hopefully we can put a bigger end in it next year.
thank you, Chief. So I'll open it up to the council, those questions.
I don't know if I have any questions. I think that, you know, it seemed like, and it seems like it's increased, you know, the amount of fireworks, larger fireworks as well. And I've lived in 3 locations in my entire life here in Soledad now, going on 22 years that I've lived here. I've lived in three locations, and in 2 of them, it's been extremely areas where there is a lot of fireworks. I think the difference this year, for some reason, they were a little bit larger. Some of the fireworks were a little larger. The explosions were a little larger than they had been in the past. And there was a lot of fireworks that went off, illegal fireworks that went off that were really low, that didn't really take off and hit roofs and got really close to roofs. In our neighborhood, I know the house next door, you know, luckily they have cement tile roofs, but their roof, at least I saw 3 on top of their roof, illegal fireworks over there. In our yard, throughout the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we've picked up probably at least 15 of the rockets that have landed in our yard, and only 1 on our roof that I saw and that we took down. But it just seems like the explosions were a lot larger this year than they have been in the past, and they seem to have been. I wouldn't say they're misfires, but they seem to have either taken off not straight up into the air, but actually came towards roofs of a lot of houses. I've noticed that quite a bit this year than in other years in the past. So I'm not sure what that pertained to, but for sure, I'm glad the work that you guys did. But for those folks that are, veterans that do have issues with PTSD, I'm sure that was not a fun night, nor has it been for the last few weeks. And for those animals and those dogs that are frightened by it, I think has been probably a pretty rough 3 weeks as well, before 4th of July and after. So I think in regards to what the mayor referred to, I think we should continue to look at what other policies are out there, what other strategies have been utilized by other cities. I have seen at this point fines that are $1,000 in some of the cities that are utilizing. Are they being effective? Not sure. Are they confiscating as much as 300 pounds? I'm not sure. I haven't looked at any numbers from some of the other cities, but I know that there has been some other fines that they're trying to escalate those fines, and I know folks are, getting their fireworks confiscated. I don't know how far we need to go in regards to that, or what the city needs to do. And I think the mayor is correct that there is a issue of a acceptance in culture as far as the fireworks are concerned. And I think that one of the things that trying to do the education, I think maybe year round might be important, so that message continues all the time, so that folks kind of, I don't want them to be desensitized for the information, but I think that they should be aware of some of the stuff that happens. The fire that happened here in Soledad that could have been worse. And then the fire that did occur in Gonzales, which was a huge tragedy. So, and I'm sure were other fires throughout the Central Coast. So thank you for all the work, and thanks to all the officers and everyone that participated in helping out the community.
Yes, just wanted to also echo similar thoughts. Thank you for your work. I did notice that it to me, at least personally, it did seem worse than other years. With that said, I did have someone suggest maybe that we have like an illegal firework drop off, like we do with guns once in a while, because we may have people that maybe might have not thought it was a big deal before, but after seeing that someone lost their life and fire also that we had here in Soledad, I think maybe, they might have changed their mind, or the parent found them in their home if it belonged to children. So I think that might be something to maybe do. Also wanted to say, I agree that we do need to make some changes to our when it comes to our city and our ordinances or fines. But also I think we all know that this goes beyond our city. It's a state issue. I have gone to this, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks before 4th of July. And we got, every car was being pulled over and searched as we were coming back into California. There was like probably 3 officers per car. It was a very thorough, you had to open your trunk. They were in there looking, searching. So I again, I think we all realize that it goes beyond just Soledad or Monterey County. So, I'm really hoping that we're able to maybe talk to our state legislators and talk to others, or when you have your, meetings that you have, bring that up, because I think it is something that we have to, work collaboratively with other states. I think that's all I have, but just again, thank you, and I'm glad that none of our public officers or anyone in the fire department was injured. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for those comments, and I'll just to clarify in terms of the state, so legal fireworks are illegal in the state of California. So the state has banned fireworks in the state of California, so it's not necessarily a state issue in terms of California, because they're illegal. They're coming in from Nevada, they're coming in from other places that they're buying them that are legal in other states and bringing them in, because in California,
California,
it's illegal.
Safe and sane. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we allow. So, I mean, the conversation is worth having, what other possibilities, but I think for us in the state legislature, it's. You know, it's illegal. It doesn't happen. So, but what other mechanisms in terms of what other, maybe the attorney general, or other kind of, ideas in terms of what can happen, but definitely, Chief, I know there's other city managers that have talked to the senator as well in terms of the Central Valley, because it happened everywhere,
Yes.
right? It just like, as was said, I think it was augmented, not just here, but it was augmented everywhere, and there's a lot of concern. But it's looking at, what is strategic policy that really can be put in place, and what does that policy look like? So any of those conversations that are had, I'll make sure that you're included to be part of that.
Okay, yeah, because it could have been worse, way worse. I went to the south end of town and I was watching, and up around Orchard where all the new houses was going nuts. This side was going nuts, the Mission was going nuts, Blue Jay Lane was going nuts. They even had fire out there, so it could have
Yeah.
been way worse.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you so much for all the work that you did. Thank you for all the work that CAL FIRE did also too. I'm sure that you guys probably haven't had a lot of rest either. So thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now to our next item on our agenda, which is the City of Soledad, Ariana, our Assistant Planner. Ariana Mora will present a PowerPoint on the Smart Belt Permitting portal.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. And let me just get this screen going. Hi, good afternoon. I will be doing a brief presentation on SmartGov on the City of Soledad permitting portal. This has been on the works for the entire beginning of this year. So a lot of kudos to our building department technicians, Jeanette and Blanca, who is no longer with us, but I'm sure she still keeps up with Soledad news. So kudos to them. And our building official, who's also been testing the system out as we move forward with an online database for these permitting for building and planning department. So here's a brief overview of how our permitting system looks online. It's currently public. It is published on our website. Any residents, customers that are applying, companies are able to go and apply through this portal. They're able to make an account, log in, and access the various applications we have. One of the great things of this portal is that the entire portal can be translated to any language. So if someone in Spanish wants to see the application, it can be translated based on the feature on the top right corner. This markup portal allows us to provide much more information to the applicant in a much easier way. They're able to apply online, see the status and the progress. They're able to schedule inspections online and keep track of the status that the technicians are doing on the back end and the status of their plans, whether they've been approved, when they've been approved, and when these plans have been viewed. They're also able to pull up building and planning reports as staff is able to present or allow them to access. Most importantly, it allows to show the progress of your application. It does reduce the number of phone calls and emails that residents are bringing into City Hall or communicating to us via phone. So as mentioned, we have brief pictures of what an application may look like. We are still working on our GIS database, which will be very helpful. That way the location is much more accurate than what we have. We've been working closely with AMBAG and GIS to get the data and have it updated here with our own in-house GIS software. Again, you are able to see the status of the application, check the workflow, which department is currently viewing your application. You're able to see the expiration. The submittals are also located anyone is able to upload information to this permit on the back end, and we are able to approve, deny, and provide them approved plans, approved stamp plans. As mentioned, this system is allowing staff to reduce phone and email contact, as well as those that aren't able to come into City Hall and apply online. We are able to also email deficiency comments via this portal, which ties everything together. We were first emailing comments separately via emails, and now by having these deficiency comments tied to the permit and the submittal, it's a much easier tracking system for both staff and the applicant. And then in the future, when an applicant or a resident would like to access these approved plans, all they have to do is log into the portal and they'll have a copy already stored in their own profile. Applicants will be receiving notifications based on the status of this permit. The status will be something similar as portrayed in the presentation. It'll allow you to see what the current status is, if it's incomplete, canceled, deficient, or if your permit is ready to be issued. One of the items that we are still also working on is having online fees paid through the system also. So at this time, we are taking phone payments and any email, mailing, text, or credit card transactions as well. So all documents will be digital. This includes applications, submittals, plans, and inspection cards. Of course, all this paperwork is provided, can be provided in paper upon request. Knowing that not everyone uses the system, we are able to be flexible and help them through the process and provide that paperwork in person. Again, big kudos to the permit technicians who really worked on this. We kind of just brought it all together and presenting it over here today for you all. And as mentioned, this permitting portal is up and live in our website. And feel free to give us any calls at the number in the screen. And you're able to email buildingpermits@cityofsoledad.com for any questions or concerns. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Ariana. That's it's so awesome to see that this process is happening, right? Especially the online permitting process, and that there's still an alternative for those that still want the paper documents, that's still, I mean, we're still gonna have that until people feel more comfortable, but I think it's really important to have an online database and records of all of this and easy access also for the individuals, right? Because I think that'll lessen the calls and the visits when people have access to this, their own information, and they can they can readily see where they're at in terms of the status of the application. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for just, a lot of what we're seeing in terms of technology and just moving Soledad in that direction has been really great to see the last couple of years. My only question on that would be, how long do you retain those records? So how long, if I pull the permit now, but nothing happens, I mean, what's the record retention timeframe for that?
So SmartGov works as a Google Drive kind of, so it's until the entire database is completely full. We don't know how far that will be in, but we still keep it there. And we eventually switch records to our archive system that we have as well, where the other older records are located. So eventually we'll transfer them out to an actual archive site, and we do have to keep them based on the number of years that we're required to by law.
Okay.
So I'm not sure of the exact year, but there is a specific year that we're able to keep them. But we still keep them. We've kept some since the 1920s. So we still have them. So yeah, and
For these? So I know
on here on the portal. No,
I mean, for building permits, I know,
Yeah.
I mean, I know record retention and I know there's several years, but I didn't know that for the permit, for these types of records, we have to keep them like in perpetuity.
yeah, as long as we can.
Wow.
Yeah, in case, in the future, we need more information of the history of, especially on the law or the house, we need to have that information for record requests that come up.
Good, but thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. So I'll open it up to the council.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say, I think this is a long time coming. I just wanted to thank everybody that, have input in doing this, so definitely streamline and make everything easier for the residents.
Thank you. Yeah, this was being worked on. We've had SmartGov for a few years here in Soledad. Unfortunately, due to staff shortage, we weren't able to get going on this. And now that we were at full capacity, we decided to move forward. And again, big kudos to the permit technicians who really provided all that material. Everyone at City Hall participated as a test run since this website, we do have a training site for staff to make sure it looks good on the back end and then put it into production, which is why it's now live. So kudos to all the city staff as well who participated in that, and IT department as we are moving forward with implementing it on the website.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jenna and Blanca, right?
Yes.
We're working on that.
Just one question, I think, well, maybe two, but as far as the, for example, when someone was doing a house and they needed to submit in paper their plans, how many sets of blueprints do they need to submit before we did anything electronic?
So before it was 4 copies, I believe, paper copies, and they had to be at least 11 by 17 or rolled out plans. I think if I'm correct, around 2018, that's when or COVID time, we decided to switch everything electronically. So all PDFs versions, so that's when we required one version that we would work on. But before it was 4 to even more, maybe 8 copies, depending on the type of project. So, yeah.
That's great, because that's a lot for one, for folks to be carrying around, and two, killing a lot of trees. This is great. So I'm glad that the other piece, and it kind of ties into what you were talking about as far as the issue of storage, security of those documents, because there's a lot of information in regards to building plans, just not a lot of stuff. So in regards to that, I know that we've got Steve and the folks here in IT, but just curious about that piece.
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do on the back end with SmartGov is decide what information as an applicant is applying, what information do we want to make sure it's private just for the application and staff, and what is private for anyone joining in on SmartGov. There's also the feature that whenever they submit a specific document, we click the feature that has sensitive information, that has, I guess, more encryption to make it safer. In that case, that's the only thing I think I can, if it satisfies your.
The only, and part of the reason that I bring it up is because I've noticed that there has been several cities, there have been several community colleges throughout California that have been hit. Some educational institutions have been hit. Hackers, not necessarily from the United States, but from possibly outside the United States, asking for ransom. And so, they've taken quite a bit of sensitive material, sensitive information, especially in some clinics that has happened already. So I'm just curious about that. That's the reason I'm kind of a little curious about it, because I know we've got our servers are here, and so I'm pretty happy with what Steve and the IT team has done. But this one, since it's a program that's utilized from outside, as far as SmartGov is concerned, just that's the piece I'm just curious about.
Yeah, no, you're correct. So because SmartGov is an application that we're not hosting here, it's actually hosted offsite. Their backing storage is Amazon Web Services, and it's on secure government platform. So they have government servers are there. So they have special servers that are just for government clients that are separate from everything else. So, and we only have a certain number of people who actually have access to get into it. They also have 2-factor that's on there. So they would have to compromise an account to get in, and then their backend is all encrypted anyway. So even if the servers were stolen or compromised, the data itself is encrypted, so it doesn't get, and it's not tied to here. We don't store credit card information or any kind of information here in SmartGov. We did previously, so all those backups, that legacy stuff, that's all encrypted and backed up. But this is why you move to kind of a web portal, because it gets all that sensitive information outside of your organization. So if something happens here, that stuff is unaffected.
Got it. And that was what I was curious about. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I think we're all really excited. I know it's been, it's been on the works for a while, so we're glad that it's finally here. And it's nice to be able to see those streamlined processes as we continue to look at more commercial development and more, just to stimulate that, right? That I think it's accessible. People want to come where there's an easy process to be able to go through the permitting process. So thank you for completing that, for it being streamlined, and thank you for us being really conscientious about taking care of our planet too. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a side note.
Yes.
I think it became official the day after this agenda went out, and I just signed off on new business cards for a much deserved promotion for Ariana to associate planner. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. Thank you so much for all your progressive thinking and for everything that you brought to the city. We much appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. And congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, so we will now move on to our consent calendar. And we do have 8 items on our consent agenda today. And so we are going to pull item C8. And then I also want to pull item C3 just because I have a question, and then C4 for a comment. So I don't know if any members of the council have any items they want to pull from the agenda, from the consent agenda. Okay, any members from the public have any items that they want to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, I see none. So I will then entertain a motion from the council if we want to approve all other items on the consent agenda with the exception of CA, C3, and C1.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to accept the consent agenda minus C3, C4, and C8.
Okay, so I second it. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. And I just have a question on C3, only because, just a clarification, because we are going to be approving, we still have a public hearing on those levying the general taxes and assessment and property related fees for 2023 and 24. So will that affect, do we need to approve that first before we do this? I just kind of, no, it doesn't hinder.
Just the process we're
Just the
going
process?
through is compliant with state law.
Okay, so does it matter that it's still on the public hearing?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, this will be submitted. We're required to submit this at the same time that we submit the information about the approved assessments. So, it'll be fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
just, okay, good. Thank you for that clarification, because I just thought we were doing
Course
it
before the
backwards.
card, yeah, so,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. And then on my item on CA, no, I have C4, sorry, and then there was a CA. So C4 for me is just a quick question. I know this was the approving the organic materials direct service provider. So I just have a question in terms of how many other bids were received as part of the RFP process. So I know this is approving Atlas to be selected as a person that the authority went out to do the RFP, but just I wanted to see if what other, because I didn't find it in the report, if there was what other entities.
So the bidding was done by the Salinas Valley Solid
Mhm.
Waste Authority. And my recollection, I looked at their staff report the night that they approved it. I think that they had 4 bids that they worked from.
4 bids?
So they received 4, yeah. I can confirm that, but yeah, they had multiple bids.
Okay, yeah, and I think for me, it would be important, at least for the report, to be able to say, hey, there was 4 bids that came in as part of this RFP process, even though we didn't do it, but the procurement process to make sure. So that was my concern, so. Okay, so those were all the questions I had. So I will defer to item CA.
Good evening, council members. So item C8, which is basically a proposed contract with the Community Foundation of Monterey County for the city of Soledad to be able to raise funds through the Community Foundation. So this is a project that began back when former city manager Fred Slamo was here. The idea has been entertained about the city of Soledad creating its own nonprofit, its own foundation as a way of increasing revenue, kind of meeting the gaps. We know that oftentimes demand is higher than the amount of tax dollars we receive. And so such a foundation or a nonprofit could help with that. Knowing that it does take a number of years, comes across its own legal issues. Former city manager Slama and I thought that the idea of formal fiscal sponsorship through the community foundation would be a good idea. So we met with representatives of the community foundation. They came up with a contract that's in the packet. And in a nutshell, it allows the city to raise tax deductible donations. The foundation keeps it. This contract is specifically for scholarships for the Parks and Recs program. If the city sees that it is, a good program, then we can duplicate it, create different contracts, essentially different pots of money for different programs down the line for any other things that we want to fundraise for. The foundation does keep 2% for administrative fees, which, having worked at a, incubator in the past, that's very low. And the other two considerations is that the contract does ask for a starting donation. And so our recommendation is that you allow the city manager to pull $1,000 from the Parks and Recs budget toward this. And then the final portion is how it is that the city wants the funds to be managed. There are 3 different portfolios. Our recommendation is the ESG, which is more in line with our city. It doesn't go toward any, private corporations or things that, might seem like a conflict of interest with our values. So what we are asking today, and Mike, let me know if I missed anything, but the city council approving the city manager to go ahead and execute this contract, as well as to start with $1,000 from the Parks and Rec budget.
Thank you, Jesus, for that, for providing that overview in terms of the contract information. And just to kind of reiterate some of the items that you talked about, I know that when we were talking about scholarships, and especially because when we were going to undertake our own recreation department, one of the things that we know was a key component to it was being able to provide that assistance to those individuals that may not, or those families that may not have the resources and needed the financial support. I know we've been asking throughout the last couple of years. We thought that we would be able to generate some more revenue, but I know there was discussions about what can we do to really go out and seek different opportunities for scholarships to be able to provide some of those subsidies that are needed for some of our residents to allow us to do that. So I just want to, just some historical context, as you mentioned, it's been in the works for a while. So I know that thank you for bringing this forth. I think it's great. I know the Community Foundation obviously is an established organization and does a lot. My only comment is that when we put these funds in there, and I know that all the details in terms of eligibility are all going to be worked out, right? Because this is just a contract specific with them to be able to allow that financial revenue that financial source to be able to go out and seek more revenues, scholarships. So the city will have access to this anytime. When there's funding in there, there's not. I guess I'm just concerned that there's going to be mechanisms, a framework to make sure that if there's money that's been donated, that the city is not, that there's no kind of hang up between the city and the Community Foundation to be able to access those monies to provide to the families that are in need, that need it.
That is correct. So in our conversations with the Community Foundation, they mentioned that any request that the city has to pull funds that, once received, once approved, then it will go into the next check run. So it should be fairly quickly according to the representatives of the Community Foundation.
Okay.
Now, how it wants to be designed, right? If the city itself wants to be the one that pulls the money and then distributes the funds, or if you want the Community Foundation to be directly distributing the funds, that I think is a conversation with the city manager that we can have after this.
So what's the 2 alternatives? I mean, we can have the city do it, or you can have the foundation do it. but I guess what's the pros and cons of, because if we're gonna enter into this, I think it's important for us to know, right? I mean, we're gonna do this is great, but what's the avenue?
Traditionally, the city is the one that administers the funds, so I was, kind of trying to reinterpret your question. So it will be 100% up to the city how the funds are administered.
So we are making a decision, we're asking council for direction in exhibit B to confirm in the staff report the ESG portfolio will be our selection.
Yeah, so but with this portfolio, then I guess I'm just trying to, sorry, Jesus.
No, so-
Wait, I just want to make sure, you know, who's gonna be, we're gonna enter into them. I get it that they have that entity,
Yes.
right? I mean, we don't have that capacity. They do to be able to do this. For us to solicit funding and it goes into a pot of money and then we can get that, utilize it for scholarships.
Correct.
But I guess for me, in terms of the framework of, is it gonna be the community foundation dispersing that then to the city at the city's request? And that's why I was saying, how fast is that gonna happen? Because I just wanna make sure there's a process where we have to wait now till they're ready so we can make requests. And we might have a request in mid-month, right? Because we have several families that need assistance, but maybe their check payment or whatever their process is doesn't happen until at the end of the month. So it's kind of my question.
Yeah, I can follow up with that question. I mean, it was my understanding that they do check runs every week. So, you know, they assured me that it is pretty feasible, pretty quick. They're very flexible. I mean, in my experience in the past, both through the 2020 census as well as with the VITA project, the community foundation is very flexible.
Yeah.
And in terms of the ESG portfolio, that one is more of how the community foundation will invest those funds on their end, so. That's
To grow the fund.
correct, so that should not have an impact on our ability to pull from that.
From that one. Okay. Yeah. So questions? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Jesus, for your work and for that information. I do have a question. The Parks and Rec, if I recall correctly, did a presentation a few months back and we did approve, when they presented us with a scholarship program that they had for those who were in need, to use the Solid Community Center for the program for sports. And so I guess my question is this gonna supersede what they have already in place?
No, and Mike, just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that those funds were ARPA dollars. But Jessica Potts spoke to me and she mentioned that, you know, those funds were gonna be exhausted very quickly.
Okay.
So it won't supersede, but it will add on to it.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And then also, I guess another concern, and I don't know if I should be directing it to you or to Parks and Rec, but it sounds like you work with Jessica, which is awesome, so you might have an answer for me. I know that, that was a few months when Jessica presented to us and we started implementing that program, and to my understanding, there has only been one family that has taken advantage of the scholarship program, so I'm not sure if it's, that we don't have a need or we're not doing enough outreach, or maybe the application is too complex, or maybe I'm assuming that we have it in Spanish also to make it, I guess, in order to make sure that we're, being fair to everybody and all that. Do you know anything about that?
No, my apologies, but I can definitely have a conversation with Jessica to see how we can promote it a lot more.
Yeah, okay, and then my last thing was just gonna be, I think, the community foundation for Monterey County, again, it's a very reputable organization. Not only that, but I know every year when we donate, we wait till the end of the year because they match their donations, and so I think that that's also something that, if we do decide today to go with them, that as right before we get to that period, and I think every year it's the same time, we can start maybe pushing for donations so that hopefully we can double them.
Definitely. So, if council does go ahead and approve this contract, the city manager, myself, Jessica can get together and even come up with a fundraising plan, come up with a fundraising goal, some potential targets. We know that there are a lot of, local advocate companies that would happily donate to, to use. And, like I mentioned, if we see that this is something that is viable, then we can expand it to other programs as well. So we can fundraise for different parts of the city. It's my understanding that the city of Gonzales is also doing this for their new community center. And so they're right now in the process of raising I don't know how many millions of dollars that they need. And they executed a similar contract with the community foundation.
Yeah, but this is great. So just wanted to say, just to end my comment, just thank you. And I really, want, I think like we all do, for all children to be able to have access to the community center, and don't want any children turned away, especially not for many. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jesus. Did you?
Yeah. It's my own deal, I guess. I always had thought that, it was a mistake on our part to have moved in the direction we did as far as moving towards having our own city rec department for a number of reasons. The main reason was just the cost. I really thought that the cost was going to be at some point, it's going to be so costly for us to be running our own programs that it's going to be very difficult to do something like this where we're doing scholarships. When we did have the Y here locally, in Soledad, we were investing 120,000 to 160,000 a year in recreation. That's what we were investing. Our investment dollars are so much higher now, and I know we've got a funding source in the measures that we utilize for the rec. But if we would have doubled that or tripled that investment in that organization, we could be having, at least double the amount of recreation that we have. But that's neither here nor there. And so in regards to the distribution of the dollars, I'm a bit confused as to how it would work if we distributed to give scholarships. If it's going from us, raising to a nonprofit, a 501c3, but then it comes back to us and then we give the scholarships. I'm confused as to how that process would work. It seems like it would be a distribution directly from the 501c3, since that's where the charity is happening, not to the city. So I'm confused about the process.
Right. So it's my understanding that, the funding dollars will come back to the city, so we would administer the scholarship program, but that is definitely a question that I can just immediately call the foundation tomorrow just to get 100% clarity. So, yeah, that was my understanding of it, but,
Because I know that the other cities that have their own foundations, their own parks, foundations, or their own recreation foundations, normally they are separate from, and they're not necessarily with an entity such as the community foundation. And sometimes they start there, but usually what they do is they have their own board, and normally either a staff member from the city or normally it's somebody like a commissioner from a recreation commission from the city is usually on that board as well. So there's some type of tie-in, but not a direct tie-in. So I'm just wondering if, that process eventually can happen, but I'm just trying to get the clarity on the distribution piece.
Yes, I can definitely get 100% clarity on that. It was my understanding that funds come back to the city for the city to administer the funds, as we see fit. But to your other question is, upon the city manager returning, we can definitely have that conversation about seriously kicking off that nonprofit status.
Yeah, Jesus, and just to follow up on that, I think I would also like, what's the pros and cons, right? Because I'm sure that they do, obviously not, I'm sure they do. These investment tools, but what's the pros and cons of the city doing their own scholarship program as opposed to the foundation, right? Distributing those funds, just on the two models, model 1, model 2, what's pros and cons, what works best from their perspective. I don't know, but I would assume we would want to administer those funds because it's local, it's our communities, we know our communities, and opposed to having the community foundation, although they're really invested in the community. They have a whole separate system, but I would like to see both options so we can determine what will work best for us.
Okay, will do.
And what is actually there?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of discretion in section 6 of the agreement in terms of the methodology that's going to be
Okay.
used and so forth and so on. So it's clearly anticipated that the foundation is going to sit down with the city and work out the details of how, monies are going to be withdrawn and who's going to be in charge and how the whole thing's going to happen. And so that's a process I'm sure that the city manager can follow up with you folks.
Yeah, just to make sure that we aren't circumventing the issue of tax dollars being given away.
Right.
Because I think that's the piece that we're having trouble with right now with giving scholarships at the rec center directly from funds. I know we're doing it with the ARPA funds right now, but as far as, a gift of public funds to folks, that's the issue I think that we're having, and that's I think why we wanted to do something like this. So the piece that I have the confusion with is that if these funds are being raised over here, but then they come back to the city and then the city's distributed, are we not just doing the same thing?
Yeah, it sounds like maybe, a good idea would be to have somebody from the foundation itself actually come and talk about the process that would be used.
Yeah, it just seems more.
Well, but that was a concept that we're doing with the scholarships, I mean, to the community, right? They're all public funds, they're all
Mhm.
public dollars, so you're giving it to community groups, you're giving it to families, like, what's the difference, right? I mean, all coming from public funding, so that was, that was my concern on that end too, but. I mean, if we find a mechanism, obviously the community foundation will have more information for us to be able to say, okay, so. What is legitimate in terms of how that could be distributed in a way that's equitable? And also that there is a fair process, right?
I mean, if you have
And it's quick.
If you have enough, doubts, if you're enough concerns, you could always kick this item over until the next meeting and then, although not the next meeting, that's the only problem. Because the next meeting, we're gonna have nothing. but district-
I personally don't have a problem with moving forward with this, as long as we get some clarification. on
Yeah,
the
this
rest
is
of it.
the framework that will
Yeah, it's
establish
just
the
the
basics,
concept.
and then we definitely can have some follow-up and so forth. But let's see if we can maybe get somebody from the foundation to come here and have some interaction with you folks so you can ask their questions directly, so.
Yeah,
That's it.
Okay.
and for me, just on the scholarship side, I just making sure that we really have, I know that you have exhibit C here. It'll probably be more comprehensive when it's gonna happen, that it is really a process that is transparent, equitable, and that there's really no special interest or conflict of interest among how that money is being dispersed.
Oh, yes, understood, as Mike mentioned, this really is just the framework, really just empowering the city manager to figure out the next steps.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay,
Through the chair, did the council have any direction with respect to this investment option?
ESG sounds good to me.
Okay.
yeah, I think the recommendation, we are okay, Councilwoman, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
As
so.
well as the $1,000
Yeah, okay, so now with all of that said, I will entertain a motion for approval of item C-8.
Seconded.
So
Okay, so I entertain a motion, so I need a motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion for accepting consent item 3, consent item 4, and consent item 8.
I second that.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor, all in favor, say aye. Aye, any opposed? Okay, so motion carries, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mrs. for that. So we will now move on to our, we have 2 public hearings today, so we'll move on to our first public hearing. And we are, Mike's provided me with a little cheat sheet, so I'm gonna try to go through this. So we're not gonna do the Diamond Ridge and the Orchard Villas. Right, because Fernando is
Diamond
not
Ridge,
here.
right?
Or is
We
it
have-
just Diamond Ridge? I can do Orchard
We
Villas.
have I think that we have the consultant.
We do.
Yeah, who will give the staff report, but yeah, in terms, because of the absences that we have this evening, we can move forward with the Orchard Villas and we can move forward with Rancho San Vicente. We cannot take action on Diamond Ridge, and so we're gonna need to set up another meeting within the next week to take care of that. And Mayor, that's not a meeting that you need to attend because you're going to be conflicted out anyway,
I
so.
won't be here.
What we need to do, but if we don't get a specific date to continue this matter to, then we have to renotice, and so we're trying to avoid that, so. I can't imagine that meeting would take any longer than, 15 minutes or something like that, but we need to sort of have some idea from the two council members who will be participating as to their availability next week or the first part of that following week. I think that, what's the date for getting the,
August 4th, August 7th, something like that.
yeah, I thought it was accelerated this year, like maybe the first or something like that.
It
So,
may be, and.
yeah, so I mean,
included maybe.
if at all possible, we should try to do a special meeting for 15 minutes next week.
Okay, so what we'll do then, Mike, with that notice, and then I know we have our consultant here who will be able to tell us when that due date is, so we can confirm when that meeting needs to happen. So then at this point then, just for the public, we're gonna receive the staff report. I'll open the public hearing, then I'm, take any comments that there may be, and then we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll bring it back to council action on those items that we can vote on today. And then we will continue for the Diamond Ridge, that will be a continuation meeting for either next week possibly. Okay, so at this time then I will open it up to receive the staff report. And we have,
Buddha with David Tossick and Associates will
okay,
be presenting.
Kuda, welcome to city council meeting for the city of Soledad. I will turn the mic over to you. Oh, she just dropped?
No, she's joining as a panelist right
Oh, okay.
now.
Hello, yes, good evening, Mayor Velasquez, members of the council. My name is Kuda Wekwede. I'll be briefly talking about the staff report. I think this issue was heard previously when we had the intent to levy. And now we are essentially having the public hearing to approve the levies for the assessment districts for the upcoming fiscal year. I'm happy to answer any specific questions regarding the assessments, and I will leave it there if you have any specific questions.
Buddha, do you have handy the letter from the county recorder when the due date was for these to be submitted for the tax rolls?
Yes, I believe the date is August 1st that they've identified as the due date. With counties, we are able in some cases to request an extension to the extent it's needed. We haven't, however, requested an extension in this case, but we could potentially do that.
The tone in the assessor's letter was not positive for extensions, so I do remember that part. But yeah, we could try it maybe.
Okay, thank you, Kuda, for confirming that it is August 1st, so then there will be a need for a scheduled meeting to happen in the next week or so. So, okay, council, I know we've heard the report before, so I don't know if there's any questions. I'll open it up first to the council if there's any questions, and then we'll take it out. Well, no, let me open up the public hearing. I will.
So yeah, what we should do is adopt these, usually what we do is in groups. So you can adopt C, or you can consider adoption of C and D at the same time. Those are the Orchard Villa resolutions. And then you would open the public hearing on that, receive any comments on those. If you don't receive any, close the public hearing, and then take action on those two resolutions by way of a separate single motion. And then move on to E, which is the San Vicente Parks. There's just a single assessment district there that you need to take. And same thing, open the public hearing, close the public hearing.
Okay, so then I will open the public hearing at 9. And this is on item C and D, which is the resolution for city council ordering the levy parks and open space maintenance assessment district number 1, Orchard Villas and Villa 2. And then also on the collection assessments with the benefit assessment district number 2 for Orchard Villas and Mina Valley 2 for fiscal year 23-24. Okay, so at this point, I will open it up for any public comments first from the public, and then I'll bring it back to the council. So there is no one in our council chambers, so anyone that is joining us in our Zoom. I don't see any, yeah, okay, I don't see any, so I will close the public hearing at this time. For item C and D and bring it back to council for any Discussions or adoption of resolution number 5977 and 5978.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to accept resolution number 5976 and resolution number 5977.
Oh,
Yeah,
5977 and
5977,
5978.
I read the wrong ones.
Yeah.
Resolution number 5977 and resolution number 5978.
Okay, I will second that. So there's a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. We will now move on to open the public hearing for resolution number 5975. And at this time, I will open the hearing at 7:40. And I will take it out to the public for any comments on the Diamond Ridge benefit assessment.
So the resolution is 5979, which is the levy and collection of
sorry.
assessment within the Rancho San Vicente Parks and Open Space Maintenance Assessment District.
5979, thank you. I put A, you said A, but it was E, okay. Okay, so I will open up the resolution, the correct resolution of the public hearing for resolution 5979. So let me take it out to the public. If there's any members of the public, any members that are joining us via Zoom that like to make comments. Okay, seeing none, then I will close the public hearing at 41 and I will bring it back to the council for approval of resolution 5979. So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 5979. Okay, there's a second. So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. And so we will now.
Should,
We
through the chair, we should try to then get a date for the continuance of the Diamond Ridge resolution 5975 and 5976. We don't have Ben here, but if for some reason Ben could not attend in person, if we set a continued date, we could always have him appear virtually.
Okay.
So
okay, so do we have, so do you wanna check the dates for council?
yeah, what are your available dates?
I am not available the 25th, the 27th, or the 28th, for sure.
Wednesday works for me.
The 26th?
Yeah.
That's the only day I can. That's the best
Let's
day for me.
just, okay, let's continue it to that date, and if for some crazy reason that doesn't work, we'll just continue it again from that date to another date, but let's set that and then see if we can't get Ben well enough so that he can participate on that 26th, because he's the other boat that we need to take care of Diamond Ridge, so.
Okay, so we will then go ahead and at this point, we will continue resolution number 5975 and 5976 to Wednesday, July 26th.
Yes, and the public hearings that are associated with those resolutions is also continued to that date.
Okay, and all the public hearings will continue that are associated with these resolutions will continue on that date, also on July 26th with the proper public notice. Okay, is that all I need on that one?
You're good.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. These are always just hectic. We're getting better. Okay, so we will then move on to our next item on our agenda. And at this point, we have public hearing number 2. And it's open and conduct a closed public engagement meeting on AB 481, which is Military Equipment Annual Report 2022-23. And then consider adoption of resolution number 5980, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Soledad approving and accepting the Soledad Police Department AB 481 fiscal year 22-23 annual military equipment use report pursuant to Government Code Section 7071D and renewing City of Soledad Ordinance number 743 approving Soledad Police Department Policy Manual Policy 706 military equipment. So I will turn it over. Will the chief be providing or will you be providing? Okay, so our city attorney will be providing the report and then we'll open up the public hearing. Then we will close the public hearing and then we'll take council action.
Okay, so this is a little process heavy, so bear with me. Last year pursuant to AB 481, the city council was required to adopt an ordinance approving the Soledad Police Department policy on the possession and use of military equipment. The city adopted its ordinance on June 15th, 2022. That was ordinance number 743. AB 481 also requires that the city council evaluate and possibly renew the ordinance on an annual basis, which is a little bit, the wording in the statute's a little bit odd. You don't usually renew ordinances. Once you adopt an ordinance, it's sort of like, it's good, you don't need to come back. But the language of the legislation that was adopted says that the ordinance has to be renewed on an annual basis. The renewal is a two-step process. First, to facilitate the renewal process, the government code requires the police department to prepare and submit an annual military equipment report. If you recall, that report was prepared in accordance with the applicable law and presented to the council on June 21st. The report was also posted on the website. That's another requirement. Is that it? So immediately the day after, I talked to Stephen, and Stephen did his wizardry, and we had the annual report posted on the agenda. The report indicates that no new military equipment has been purchased since June of 2022 by the police department. So just like last year, the department's military equipment consists of 13 M16 rifles and ammunition for the rifles. Secondly, the report indicates that no complaints have been filed with the city concerning either the possession or the use of this equipment. Thirdly, there have been no reported violation of the department's policy. And third, the cost for maintenance and storage of the military equipment that's referenced there is minimal, which is covered as part of the department's regular budget. So the city's required to hold what's called again, sort of odd public engagement meeting on the annual report, receive comments, and then close the meeting. The meeting was noticed on the city's website and posted in the place where we usually post the agendas. That's step one. Step two of the renewal process is the council's consideration as to whether or not to renew the previous ordinance that was approved by the city back in 2022. In part, this decision can be based on the annual report. As I indicated, the annual report indicates that there have been no changes to any of the conditions concerning the police department's use and possession of military equipment, and therefore staff is recommending that the council just renew the ordinance that they already have in place. There's no need to adopt a new ordinance, make any changes or anything along those lines. The circumstances have remained exactly the same, and as the annual report indicates, there have been no violations, no complaints, and so forth and so on. So staff has prepared a single resolution that if approved this evening, it will do two things. It'll approve and accept the annual report that was presented to you back on June 21st, and it will renew Ordinance 743, which approves the department's military equipment policy. Staff is recommending that the process that you take is that you go ahead and open the meeting, the public engagement meeting on the annual report, receive comment and close that meeting. And then once that meeting is closed, you take public comment and then discuss on considering the adoption of resolution 5780. I told you it was process heavy, but in terms of what the actual action is, it's fairly straightforward. What you're being asked to do is to consider just renewing the ordinance that you adopted last year. There had been different circumstances, or there had been some sort of complaints or an incident that occurred or something. There might be some consideration of, no, we need to tweak the policy or the ordinance in some way, but there hasn't been. The circumstances are exactly the same in 2023 as they were in 2022. So in any event, so that's what staff's recommendation is, that we proceed with opening this public engagement meeting, take any comment, close it, and then move on to consideration of the resolution. You should also take public comment again on the resolution when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you for that. So I will then at this point then open up the public hearing. So I'll open up the public hearing at 7:49 to take comments on the resolution.
The annual report.
On the annual report. On the annual report for 22-23. And are there any public comments from those that are joining us via Zoom or here in our chambers? Okay, I see none. So I will close the public comment at 7:49, and I will bring it back to the council for questions or adoption. And so
that'll be part of, so the resolution that you have before you now will also do the two things. It will approve and accept the annual report, and it will renew the ordinance.
okay, so we have the consideration then for resolution number of 5980, and I will open this up for public comments. If there's any public comments on resolution 5980 from our public. Okay, I see none, so I will bring it back to council. I do have some questions before we adopt it. So is this the time for us to make
Yes, this
comments
is time
now?
for your discussion and questions. Yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Mike, for bringing this back, and I know that we heard this last year, and obviously, as you stated, it's a renewal and it's different. I did have some questions, though, I think after going back and reading the information again, and reading the report, reading the legislature's findings in regards to why the purpose of this bill, I think I just kind of made it more clear for me, maybe the second time you read it again. But I know the bill, just for our community residents, is it's really the intent is to protect the communities of color, right? Especially from some of the adverse impacts of militarization of police. And so it's really to be able to do that and to protect from, you know, all these other things that can happen. So with that, I think I just have a couple of questions. Understanding that the city in its past has been designated as one of the safest cities. I know we get monthly reports from the police department in terms of, you know, what type of crimes are being committed in the city of Soledad. And I think for the most part, our community is really safe and our residents feel really safe. So my question with that is, I know that we have purchased these guns in the past, these rifles, and this is the only equipment that we have that would be designated or considered as a military weapon. One is it mandatory for our city to engage in an activity that requires a use of military equipment? I mean, I don't think is it mandatory? We have not engaged, and I know in the report it says it's only used for practice purposes. So I guess my question is, it's only used for practice purposes. So having that type of military equipment, can we not use other types of rifles that would provide that same type of practice as opposed to, and I know the police department obviously through their training and post and all of that have really specific guidelines. But that would be like one of my questions, just to make sure.
So for clarification, and the chief may want to chime in, but my understanding is these weapons actually are deployed. They're carried by the police department. They just haven't been used. So in the last year, they have not been used except for the purposes of training. So the only time that they've been shot is at the rifle range. But they are deployed on a daily basis. I think that, Chief, that's a discussion that we had.
They're high caliber patrol rifles, and they're deployed on a daily basis. And they're meant for incidents similar to what happened in Salinas a couple of weeks back. Because you don't want your officers out engaged in a gunfight with someone with a high caliber rifle with a handgun and expect them to go back to the police department, pick up their rifle to engage someone that's in a rifle fight with a police officer. The rifles go out with the officers every day. You have your patrol rifle and your shotgun. It goes in the car every day.
So Chief, part of the language and the legislation talks about having these military equipment that is, there's 4 different categories of what you can, why you would have this, right? And so you don't have, because one of them is you already have access to buy shotgun or, you know, guns and stuff to be able to have your officers be safe. And so why this as opposed to what you already can have? I mean,
Because a handgun won't do what a shotgun will do. A shotgun will not do what a patrol rifle will do. They're different weapons for different scenarios, different events. You can't use a shotgun for long distances, because if you use a shotgun in a long distance, it spreads out and you take the chance on injuring somebody in the community or somebody nearby. Patrol rifles are for a specific purpose to engage someone at a long distance, where your handgun, you can't do it with a handgun and you can't do it with a shotgun.
Thank you for that clarification. So my other question then to you would be, how many times have we we haven't used it because the annual report says that we haven't used it, right? So we
No.
haven't had a need to use them.
No.
Since we've had them, we've never used them. So it's just in case that you ever need them, you have it.
Right, it's,
But-
yes, it's another tool, it's a safety measure. Like I said, this event that happened in Salinas, a couple of weeks back, it was a patrol rifle that ended the situation. It wasn't a handgun, it wasn't a shotgun, it was a patrol rifle.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Those were my questions, and just going back again to what the intent of the bill was and why we're doing this, why we have to do this, and so that brought up other questions for me in terms of that. So just to clarify, the officers are taking them out every day,
Yeah,
so they are okay.
Chief, do you know when those rifles were purchased or received?
well, I've been here 15 years, so they were purchased before that.
Prior to the time?
Yes.
But we've never had to do this only because of the legislation that came into effect in 2022, correct? Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Those are my questions, Chief. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear in terms of what we're approving tonight. Yeah, so I don't have any further questions on that. I don't know if the council has any questions.
I don't have any questions. I do have, I guess, probably a comment. For me, I know that, there's been situations in other areas, the one that pops up into my head is Uvalde, in Texas. In a situation, we never know what could happen anywhere in any city, even though we've been considered one of the safest cities in California. A couple of times we've been in the nation, as far as cities that are small. So for me, I think that I'm not a huge gun advocate myself and so on and so forth, but the reality is that in certain situations, the folks that are protecting our citizens need to have the tools available to them and could not wait for, someone else to come back with the correct tool in order to engage in a situation that is an emergency situation. So for me, I totally understand where this reporting is coming from, but I think a lot of it has to do with some of the tanks, some of the really large equipment that I think that's where kind of some of it started. And I think it went even farther than that because of some of the other equipment that's utilized. But I think that I'm comfortable with what we have right now. And I think that I don't mind us reporting on a yearly basis. I think it's fine for us to be able to do that so the public knows what we have as well as what is being utilized in a yearly basis. Thank you.
Yes, I just have a comment, I did see on social media, I think there was a news outlet that posted about, this hearing. And I saw people's comments, on there, so I'm kind of surprised that there's nobody here, so I'm glad that we're having this discussion, for those that are watching. But I was gonna say, I know for me, unfortunately with all these mass school shootings that we see, and even at events, there'll be events in cities and then there'll be mass shootings there and really, feel that it is to keep our community safe. And it just, kind of a rhetorical question that I want to throw out there is how long is a school hallway in our Soledad, schools? So, with that said, they haven't been used as you brought up and as the report brought up. So I don't think that we have an issue when it comes to, overreaching for that. And, I totally understand, we need long range. Sometimes we get better precision with those longer, what's it called? Can't think right now, sorry.
Patrol rifle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Patrol car by
I know when I go shooting, the smaller guns have more of a kick to it than let's say a rifle does. So, I can totally understand and appreciate, and hopefully we never have to use them. But if we do, definitely community safety is at most importance to all of us, I think.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, thank you, Chief. And I think for me, it's a matter of obviously we've seen two things, and I think this discussion is important. Like I said, I know we approved it last year and it really didn't, I read the legislation again and it really brought up different things for me. And I think it's twofold. One is really, we obviously, as Councilmember Chavez said, we've seen an increase in school shootings. But we've also seen an increase in a lot of abuse and killings, deaths attributed also from public safety to, different individuals. So I think balancing that out and ensuring that we're doing our due diligence and really understanding the reporting, I don't have any problem with it. I think it's important and that we do it. But I think having the conversation of we want to make sure that we protect our city and our residents and we continue to be safe, but that we also have, guardrails to ensure that we don't become a community where there's a potential to have an adverse impact to our community because of these militarized weapons, right? And so I think for me, it's that fine balance to make sure that we're looking at both sides of it and that we're keeping that in mind as we're, and I'm glad that we don't have like all these tanks and everything else because we only have the rifles, which is, but even with that, just to really be very thoughtful and the deliberation of how we approve this and how we move forward with that. So thank you, Chief.
And honestly, with this thing, we've had them for 20 years. Nobody had a problem with them. Nobody even knew we had them until this legislation came out. So it's only in the last year that it's become an issue.
Yeah. So you've had them for 20 years and we've never deployed them.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, they've been deployed every day.
I mean, you
was
deploy
never-
them, but they're never been used,
Right.
which is a good thing.
Yes.
So, yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Thank you, Chief, for providing me with information on what I had for my thoughts. So, okay, with that, then I don't, if there's any, I entertain a motion from the council. Oh, wait a minute, did I open up the public
Yes.
hearing? I did, we closed it, it comes back to us. Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 5980. Okay,
Yeah, do we also have to add the renewal ordinance?
no, because it's under 5980, it's all
Yeah, it's
together.
all one action.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to approve and accept the annual military equipment use report.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Oh, go ahead, second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. Thank you, council, for that. So,
Skeleton crew.
yeah. So with that, then we'll move on to our next items on our agenda. And it's our city report. And I just want to clarify just for future, I'm not on the Central Coast Community Energy board anymore because we have rotating seats as part of the city. So if we could just remove that. And then also on the teacher staff housing subcommittee, I know that that's no longer active, so we can remove that also from the report. So let me just go through some of the items that I attended, and I'll just go through them really quick. So if there's any questions. I attended the Cal Cities Latino Caucus Board of Directors, our mid-year retreat, which is in Monterey. And as I've shared before, as part of my mayor role, I do serve, we are all members of Cal Cities, and I do serve on the board of Cal Cities and also on the Latino board. And this was just a mid-year review of our board. We do have advocacy priorities and program goals as well as part of that. So our priorities are housing affordability, homelessness, and climate change. So it was to just kind of recap where we're at with that. On the June 25th, I attended the Pride Flag raising ceremony in Hollister, and this is as Councilmember Roland Resendez attended the Soledad event. So wanting to make sure that we're collaborating with our other cities. On the 26th, I attended the South County City Managers and Mayors meeting. The city hosted this meeting, and the big discussion during this meeting was the county's ag mitigation ordinance and LAFCO's policy discussion, and I think we've all heard that already. So there was a lot of conversations with the mayors and with our city managers in terms of the county's ad hoc subcommittee and the ag advisory committee meetings that have been happening for the last several months already. Just kind of the discussion was, some of us were invited. I guess some of these emails got lost somewhere. But the ad hoc committee will meet again on August 14th to consider the draft ordinance. And there will be another meeting of the Salinas Valley City Managers and Mayors to be a meeting with the Ag Commission staff, county and LAFCO to continue the discussion on the ag mitigation. And on that, Lisa Brenton, the executive director for the city of Salinas, is taking the lead. So the next meeting will happen in the city of Salinas to be able to discuss this item before it goes back to the August 14th committee to consider. So we're still trying to figure out, you know, the committee's purpose, role, and there was a big discussion. And that same day, we had a LAFCO meeting. So there was also a presentation from LAFCO, from the LAFCO staff in regards to the ag mitigation briefing that they provided. And I know Megan was there, as well as the city of Gonzales and as well as the city of Salinas, to really talk about this. And the big contentious item, as we all know, is that 1-to-1 ratio and what's the policy. And although LAFCO says, you know, they have, you know, the policies are what really is within our purview and our MOU. And I think the city's MOU is a 1-to-1 ratio, but there's still some discussion that needs to be clarified in terms of what supersedes and whose documents have precedence over some of those policy items. So there's more to come, but there is discussion that's happening on that aspect. On the 28th of June, I attended the Leadership Council meeting. And this meeting was just wanting to request, the meeting was short, but it was a request for approval to allocate funding to CSUMB through their outreach team. To allocate $255,000 to support their operations and programming for the remainder of this year. And then they also spoke about the encampment resolution grants for the Pajaro community, and requested information. I had requested more information on some of those outreach teams that are coming here to the city. I know they are coming, but also how do we have a higher presence of those outreach teams that are coming to South County, and especially to Soledad. So more information to come on that. And then on the 29th, I attended the swearing-in ceremony for Speaker-elect Robert Rivas in Sacramento. So I just want to say congratulations to our new Speaker of the Assembly, which is a historic moment for all of our rural cities, and especially for our Tri-County area. I think most of the speakers really come out of Southern California or up in the Bay Area. So to have a speaker that's local and from our rural communities, I mean, it's just pretty amazing. So just so our community knows, this is pretty historic. And then I attended on July 4th, the 4th of July celebration at the Little League Park. So I want to say thank you, Pauline. Thank you to the committee. Thank you, Eva Banuelos as well, and everyone who organized the events. It was set up really nice. There was a lot of great entertainment. I was there. I brought my own table to do a meet and greet with the mayor. So I just want to say congratulations to all of them for, you know, year after year putting on this celebration for our community. On the 6th, I attended our weekly meetings that I have with Megan, and one of the discussion items, as you all know, is that the city had received $750,000 in the CDBG under the economic development. So now we have an opportunity to be able to provide more resources and to continue to invest in our small businesses. So congratulations to our city staff that submitted a successful application, but also congratulations. I just want to say thank you to our state legislature and our federal legislature, because both of the funding sources are the ones that were accessed for our $750,000. And then on the 8th, July the 8th, I attended the 2nd annual Summer Days event. So I want to say thank you to the police department, Salinas Crusaders Card Club, and all of the sponsors. I mean, there was an incredible amount of sponsors. It was an amazing family fun event. So it's, you know, congratulations to everybody for putting this forward for our community. And then on the 10th, I attended I was unable to attend the MST Board of Directors meetings. On the 12th, I attended, I was part of the KON interview in regards to the $750,000. So again, just thank you to our city team that made this happen, and that we have more dollars to be able to invest back into our small businesses. And then on the 12th, I attended the annual customer appreciation luncheon with A&D Ag Safety Supplies. And I just want to say congratulations, because I heard that there was a lot of our city staff that attended that customer appreciation barbecue that they have, which is pretty well attended, but they also celebrated their 30th anniversary this year. So I would like to make sure that we bring them back to do a proclamation for running a successful business for the past 30 years. And then I just, you know, as you heard today from Michael, I just want to say thank you, because I know there was a youth job fair flyer that I had seen for the city of Salinas, and I called Michael and say, how do we make sure that we bring this here in Soledad? And he activated everything that he could to make that happen here for us, and working with our with Jesus and with Jessica from our team, and made that happen. So just congratulations to him. And then also I want to just do a couple of quick announcements and shout outs. So the Soledad Mission Recreation District was awarded with 400,000 of Senator Caballero's district earmark funding. The city of Soledad unfortunately was not, but they did receive 400,000 for the upgrades and improvements to the pool for the pool facility. So I want to say congratulations to that. And also the city of King received money as well for their park recreation improvements, as well as the Greenfield Police Department. They received $1 million for their radio and transmission improvements, and the city of King 400 for their rec facilities as well. And then just really quick for the council, I know that we're trying to make sure that you get all these letters. Townsend is really, Andrew Ramirez from Townsend is really, you know, proactive, and especially in this legislative session, to make sure that all of our needs, as we listed in the priorities, are really, you know, our voice is being heard at the legislature. So he's been updating on different bills, and so there's different letters that have been provided. So you guys are getting those letters as well, just to kind of keep you guys updated on what letters are being initiated at the state level. And the current one is a letter of support that was submitted for ACA 1, which is the Assembly Constitutional Amendment that is Assemblywoman Aguiar Curie. And this provide us with another financing tool to be able to develop affordable housing and public infrastructure. This still will require for it to go back to the voters if it passes, because it has to be a voter initiative. But I think it's just, you know, trying to be proactive in terms of how we have money to be able to address our housing needs and also address our infrastructure needs. So I just want to say thank you to Townsend, because they've been really active in terms of what we as a council have put together in our priorities. So that is all I have. So I will turn it over to Councilmember Chavez.
I have no reports for this. So.
Councilwoman Corralejo.
Yes, I have a couple on my, it feels like we haven't had a meeting in so long, I don't even remember. So, but I'll try to be brief and go through things. Let me see. So much for being brief. I lost my spot here, sorry. Okay, so I have been meeting with Megan as well weekly, and so one of the things that I did want to bring up that we discussed was the Miramonte project. I know that NAPCO, it was kind of at the forefront of their last meeting, so we definitely want to, you know, keep pushing when it comes to that. So we discussed that. Also, we talked about the T-Mobile hometown grant, and I, you know, was happy to be able to provide one of the support letters for that. So I know that has was sent out as well. Also, I attended the 4th of July. I was not able to go to the city council booth that we had there for our council. However, I did get to see the parade. It was a very nice parade. I also saw the fireworks. Great job. And thank you again to the 4th of July committee for putting that together. Also, I attended, I think it was on June 29th, the Soledad Merchants meeting, and we had Megan there. And so it was real nice that she got to meet and greet with a lot of the business owners. So that was, you know, definitely a treat. And then also, let me see. I was not able to attend the Pinnacle Gateway Partners special meeting that was held last week, but on a good note, Megan was able to attend via Zoom for me, so that is also great. There's a lot of initiatives to, you know, again, bridge that gap with the gateway cities, including Soledad. And then the last thing, well, 2 more things that I have on here. Of course, the Soledad Hot Summer Days car show that I volunteer and also, of course, participated. That was a great event that brought in thousands of people, hundreds of cars. And lastly, today I have Mr. Stevens, Craig Stevens from the Historical Society. I am an alternate on there, so that might be something that we want to add also on here. And so he did come by. He has a lot of concerns. He really, says that he really needs guidance from the city. So he dropped off a lot of paperwork for me. And so I'm just waiting for Megan to come back and schedule a meeting with him. And of course, I also want to include Fernando Cabrera, who is, the council assigned to that committee. And that's all I have.
Thank you for that. And I just want to clarify, we didn't have a city council booth. I know I had asked for one. That's why I said I brought my own table. Okay, because we didn't have one. So for next year, I think, it's important to be able to make sure that we have that support because I had asked for it, but we didn't have it. And I just brought my own table and stuff. So it worked out. Okay, so we'll move on now to council praises. And I will start with Councilmember Chavez.
Yeah, I think for me, I just wanted to praise Pauline, Eva, and all the 4th of July committee for a wonderful event. I had the opportunity to go out there and walk around and say hi to people and hang out there for a while, listen to a little bit of music. So just want to congratulate them and all their volunteers. And then also for the hot summer days, I was unable to attend this year. Had folks that came over and particularly my dad, who I hadn't seen in a while, came over, and so wasn't able to participate in that, but I know that I got to see a lot of the pictures and I got to see a lot of the folks that were there, so that is awesome. And I want to congratulate Maria, Frank, the whole committee that participated in that, the groups that participated, the Crusaders, the police department, and all the volunteers, because last year's was awesome, and I'm sure this year's was even better. So congratulations. And that's it.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Chavez. I also, I think today seeing the volunteers from the Celebration Nation was really a great feeling, that they have been supporting our city, and especially, when we think that they're coming, I think her name's Flor, that she's coming all the way from San Jose, so I really appreciate that. And also again, just with that same thought, want to thank all the volunteers, the 4th of July committee, Pauline, Eva, Efren, everybody else that helps out with that committee. The Soledad Hot Summer Days committee as well. I think this year, you guys might have heard it was bigger, better, more money with raised. It is the fundraiser, so I definitely don't want to lose sight of that. And with that said, I really want to focus on the explorers who, ironically, this whole event is done for them. To be able to help them to excel. So it's for the explorers and also for youth violence prevention. But the funny thing is, for those of us that were there, you saw the explorers everywhere. They were working the whole time from the moment they got there, till the end. When they were cleaning, they were helping. If we needed anything, it got real windy. That's all that wind kicked in, and we had to end an hour early. But I remember there's just, these, what's it called, tarps and everything flying everywhere. And, to the point where it was a little bit crazy. And I saw a group of them coming by, and I'm like, oh, can you guys help me? They all come, they never hesitate. So it's just, kind of the beauty of it, that we're doing this for them. Yet they're working, their butts off. I don't know what other way to say it. So just, want to make sure that we highlight them, because it's not for any other reason except to help our youth, and they're definitely worth it. So just want to make sure that they know that we appreciate them.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll stay with the same theme of the volunteers, and we have multiple volunteers and all these different events that are planned through different segments of our community, but nothing would be possible if we don't have those volunteers, right? They're really, we all know, obviously, in the different capacities that we serve, that volunteers are essential to just making sure that our communities continue to prosper and that we continue to be able to provide some of those services that otherwise couldn't be done because we don't have the volunteers. So for all the volunteers that we have, those that we have today, I so much appreciate, you know, rain, shine, or whatever it may be, they're there every month. With the food distribution, and when you think there's not gonna be a line and there's not gonna be people, there's always people. So for me, that's just been really heartwarming to know that, you know, sometimes we think the need's over, the need's never over. And so appreciate all the volunteers that, you know, just give countless hours and to serve our communities and to serve others. So thank you all for all the volunteers that we have in the city of Soledad. So with that, I'll move on to future agenda items, and Councilwoman Corralejo, I'll start with you.
Yes, thank you. I actually do have a couple of future agenda items. So I have three of them. The first one I think I had brought up before at the last meeting was just, you know, the planning commission appointment process. If we could bring that to council. I know it's something that we have discussed before. Also, I have a request for an MST presentation. Hopefully, I don't know about the next meeting. It sounds like we're gonna be real busy with the district team, but you know, hopefully at a nearby meeting. And you know, again, there is hopefully it'll include a route change process, and also you know, how community can get input on that. And I do believe that I emailed Megan Hunter, our city manager, as well as Anna, as you do sit on that board. So I think it's just important for our residents to know what the process is and where they can go for questions.
We are bringing in an agreement with MST to a very near future council meeting, so that will be the opportunity to have the public input.
Perfect. Thank you. That was fast.
Yeah, well, I've been in the works for some time now.
Okay, great. And then the last thing I have on here is just a Miramonte update. You know, there is a lot going on when it comes to that project, and it is a very important project for our community. So I think that it's probably timely to have it come, you know, back, even if it's just as an update.
Okay.
And you know, I believe that we may need to be getting an extension. You know, when it comes to that also. So just, I think it's perfect to put it on the forefront and kind of see where we're at.
Yeah, thank you for that. And the extension was something that was discussed at the last LAFCO meeting as well. So there is a process for that to happen. And I know Megan's already aware of that and working on if that's gonna be needed, depending on what the policy issues are. And then that would move forward, but that was a discussion at the last meeting as well.
I don't have any items now.
Yeah, and then I just want to say just a comment on MST, because I want there not to be miscommunication in terms of what we're relating to our community and what has happened in terms of the route change. The route change is not going to happen. So there was a discussion, this has been in the works for the last 2 years, and I know you haven't been part of it, Councilwoman Cabrera, Councilwoman Corralejo, sorry. But the process has been in the works for 2 years. And as I had mentioned before, the MST took on this extensive comprehensive operation analysis, a lot of data, a lot of community outreach was done multiple times in here in the city. I know there was concerns last year in regards to one of the locations in Front Street with one of the property owners that, you know, had a whole list of signatories and whatnot, but that was resolved. I know that we did talk to MST and that we worked with our public works director to look at alternative sites, and that there was an alternative site already for that bus stop. So I know that's been addressed. I don't know if there's any other issues or concerns in regards to that, but the reality is that we need transportation services, and the whole process of changing the operations of MST was to really serve the community that needs it. And the circular model that it's going to, and unfortunately we're supposed to initiate this last year, but it hasn't happened because we still have some you know, there's still some infrastructure that needs to happen, right? And we worked with the city of Gonzales to be able to do a joint RFP, so that way it's both more cost effective for us for the cities to be able to look at those routes, but the purpose is for MST to really have those buses that are smaller. We're still gonna have the main big bus, right, which is a fixed route. But the other circular ones are gonna come into the neighborhood, because based on the data that was presented and collected, we found that many of our residents are needing the service to go shopping, right? To go to Greenfield, to go to Gonzales. And so it's not feasible for them to walk to Front Street or other areas. It was more feasible to be able to have a circulator route where the bus is gonna go through the neighborhoods. And then the main route is still gonna be on Front Street with some of the changes in terms of where the bus stops are gonna be based on some of the issues that were addressed with the businesses. So I just wanna make sure that that's clear, because there has been already extensive outreach. We're not there anymore. That process already concluded, but obviously it's coming back to look at the circulator route. Does that still work for the city? What does the data show? And then the most pressing for me, because we've been waiting to do this, and we were supposed to have this change happen last year in December, that we're still waiting for the RFP process to happen to be able to make sure that we have those circulator routes as soon as possible. King City already is activating those circulator routes for the neighborhoods. Gonzales and Soledad are still pending.
So the circulator routes will replace the dial-a ride. So
Yeah.
instead of having to call for the circulation buses, they will be coming on a schedule.
Yes, and that's what we found, that people didn't want to take the bus because they had to wait, right? So now if it comes every 30 minutes, and we had talked about this, every 30 minutes, it's gonna come and you know that every 30 minutes, you're gonna have consistent transportation. And so that was to be able to have more equitability and to be able to serve the public and the riders where there was a higher need. And so that's kind of the issue. So I just want to clarify that, because I know that I want to make sure I am on the board and I'm the chair, and I just want to make sure that there's no like, hey, she's not addressing these issues. I think we've had a lot of discussion and all of some of those issues in terms of the Front Street and property owners. I don't know if there's other issues that I may not be aware of, but
I was gonna say, through the chair, and I think that this was included in my email, but we do have some seniors that are still, I'm not sure if confused or upset about the changes, and they've been asking during this senior socials, because there's resource booths there. And so they've been going to the resource tables and they've been asking, you know, and it's not MST booths, it's just whoever's there. They've been asking them and complaining, you know, their concerns when it comes to those route changes. So I wonder if it would be beneficial maybe to have MST go directly to the senior socials, so that they can either do a presentation or just be there, and whoever has a question will feel comfortable to go and get their answer. But yeah, there's still.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's a good alternative. So I'll make sure that I let staff know that they can go there, because the other thing that we still have the MST, right? So they can still call, and I think it's better, but I don't know why this service isn't utilized as much, is the rides program. You can call them and have them pick you up in your house, especially if you're gonna go, if they need to go transportation for healthcare services or not. I mean, that's available to them, but I don't know why it's not as utilized as much as for our seniors. But that's a good idea.
Maybe we could promote it at the senior social. It might have to do with their age. I know my mom's getting older in age, and I do notice, you know.
Yeah, we were looking at some data today, and it showed that over 50% were utilizing family and friends to drive them to locations, right? Instead of utilizing transit. So yeah, thank you for that. I will make sure that I talk to MST staff and they can attend the MST social. So I just.
And just to make a comment, I think one of the things is for folks, it's just change is always hard. I think that happens just a lot. Years and years ago, we used to have, the city of Soledad had its own taxi.
I recall.
So we had our own taxi that you would call up and they would pick you up, and the person would walk to their door, help them get on the bus, bring their groceries out, help them to their door. When MST took over the bus routes, there was a huge drop off in the number of folks that utilized the service of the dial-up. And so, I mean, it not even night and day, it's not even close to the amount of folks that were being utilizing the other service. And so we were one of the last ones, the city of Soledad was one of the last ones to the show. participating with MST in part because we had our own program already that was working really well. However, the issue of cost, the issue of maintenance, the issue of having to pay for drivers, you know, of course, is always an issue for a small budget such as the city of Soledad. So I think that and the history that existed here, I think also has contributed to what it is now. So I think that's just what it is, but I think change is always hard.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you for that. And then just to let you all know, because I think, you know, this is another component, the Valley Ride program that was instituted last year too. And that's through ITN Monterey that we had that partnership. They have dollars. They were really focusing on South County. And that program does exactly that. You call them, but you need, I mean, they were looking for volunteers, right? Because you knew, actually they pay you. So they were, I thought it was a good source of jobs for our youth. But that you pick up, you know, you call, the senior would call, you would go pick them up at their house, and most of them are groceries, right? You would go take them to the grocery store, help them with their groceries, bring them back home. And I thought that was gonna be, you know, more successful, and we still had challenges last year, just getting that more participation on that. So they're gonna try again this year on ITN, so they'll come back, we'll be bringing this back to you also. How do we all work together to collectively, you know, do the outreach to gather more,
And the funding for ITN for South County, in particular Soledad was given by Measure X this year through TANF. It was voted on at the last meeting.
Yeah, okay, good. So those dollars do exist now for this coming year.
Yeah.
So I just have a couple of questions, I mean, a couple on the future agenda items. I saw that we are finally gonna move on with the scheduling the lighting ceremony, just to making sure that doesn't drop off. I know that there was still some details. We just approved, you know, obviously that MOU with the city, with the school district. But just if we can get a timeline, you know, when is that gonna happen? I think this is another opportunity for us to really have a big community celebration, because that's major. I mean, that was in the works for many years. And
So Alex is gonna call the electrician tomorrow,
PG&E
then approve, and then he'll get a date when it'll be energized, and then we can schedule the ceremony.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And then, I know I had asked this before, but, the chief, I know we had some, Citizen Police Academy residents, that went through the Citizen Police Academy. I would love to be able to recognize them. So if we can bring them to a city council meeting to make sure that we recognize those participants and how they can continue to get involved. And then I have another, this request, I've had several individuals ask me about this. So I know I had talked to Brent many, you know, before, but developing a policy for naming our streets or renaming existing streets. Some of the residents had approached me and talking about, do we have a process for that? Can we request, especially now that the city is, you know, we're projecting to grow, and we can work with the developers. If we have a process, like if, you know, there's an individual, we want to name a street after them, or, you know, rename a street that exists, what is the process for that? My understanding, I think Brent had said that the city of Greenfield might have had a policy. I don't know. I just couldn't reach out to them, but I didn't have that opportunity. But if we can talk about that, what's a policy? What kind of policies exist already, and how do we institute something like that? So our residents have the opportunity to be able to say, hey, this is, you know, who I really want the next street named after, because this is a significance of what this person contributed back to the city of Soledad.
So then we're gonna need that for Miramonte, but back in Mirabelli 1 and 2, there was a subcommittee of the planning commission. That was the street naming committee
Oh, so we did have something.
in the past, so we can take a look at reactivating that, because we will need it for Miramonte.
Yeah.
And the
okay.
same thing with a couple of upcoming potential park sites, to name those. Two separate processes and rules, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just,
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that with me, that we already had something. How do we go back and look at it and update it, modify it? And then my other one, I know Chief, you and I have talked about it, but before the porta potties, I mean, there's tons of porta potties now coming in. I know it's ag season and I get it, but I also know that, come on, this is the entrance of the city of Soledad. I think the city has done a lot of investment to beautify our city and to really, you know, do a lot for beautification. So how, I know some of that is not within our right of way, but it's within Union Pacific's right of way, but how can we work with them, chief? What do you need? Like, how, do we need to activate someone else to, you know, to come in to work with Union Pacific or to be able to provide, put some signs out there that they're not. And I've also seen where they're actually bringing the, what are they called? The ones that service the porta potties.
Oh, they're servicing.
They're servicing the porta potties out there.
Septic tank trucks.
And so, I mean, that's just, you know, and I know there's one specific contractor that has a bunch of porta potties, but there's several of them. So I just, for me, it's like, you know, we're doing a lot of improvements, and I think that's something that the first, especially when we talk about tourism and bringing in other people, we don't want to see the first thing that they come into Soledad, there's porta potties, you know. Aesthetically, yeah. So I mean, that if we can figure out what is the long-term solution, because I know we've addressed it, and so what is the long-term solution to that?
And Caltrans really beautified that off ramp with replacing the guardrails and the
Yeah.
pavement and everything, so.
Yeah,
that is
Porta potties and then the electrical Tesla station, yeah. That's
Yeah.
great.
I know, right?
railroad cars.
So,
Railroad cars, yeah.
yeah, so if we could just find a more permanent solution to that, I appreciate the discussion. So with that, I think that's all we have, but I do, we don't have, yeah, no, city manager report. So I just,
I have a
before,
couple items I should mention.
okay, perfect. So I'll turn it over to you and then we'll do a final adjournment.
So probably the main item, and we put the announcement for the Orchard Lane Park grand opening ribbon cutting on August 19th. So there's been a lot on social media, a lot of discussions about the park is so attractive. Why can't we go in there now? Why is there a fence around it? The fence is being cut. The contractor had hose clamps around every section and those got unscrewed, wire ties. So Jesus is gonna do some public outreach explaining that the park isn't even ours yet. Contractually, it's the contractors to finish. They're trying to establish the landscaping. They don't even have the water or the fire system working on the rectory building yet. We're going as fast as possible, but it is very attractive. It's 90% done and it's become an issue. So police have been out there trying to keep people off of it so that it can, the landscape can mature and we can accept it. So again, we're gonna have the grand opening on the 19th, but we're gonna do outreach of, you know, why it's not open and when it will be open.
Okay.
Expand that
Yeah.
outreach.
I know there's been a lot of activity.
Maybe a suggestion, I'm not sure if the mayor is up to it, but maybe a video from the mayor explaining what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just, you know, yeah, I mean, just to let them know, and I get it. I know this is a beautiful park, but we want to make sure that, you know,
That everything's.
that everything functioning.
And that
by
it's
the
ours,
time
and
they-
that it's ours.
Yeah, well, and the liability, right? I mean, I know the liability right now is, you know, it's huge. So just to make sure that people understand that, you know, that there is liability, anything happens, you know, they can't come after the city. It's not even ours yet, you know?
And when we reopened Boston and Little League and Gallardo, you know, there's some anxiety, but this park is so nice and so attractive.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Really,
Yeah, it is. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm open to that. And yeah, thank you I can't wait for the celebration. So with that, then I'd like to adjourn this meeting in memory of our former mayor, businessman, community leader. Just, you know, my former boss, Mr. Jack Franchoni. So with that, we adjourn this meeting at 8:38. Thank you, everyone.